All right, back with another video update on the FMS FCX18 LC80 Land Cruiser. As I mentioned on my last video, I was kind of thinking about getting into some of the bigger stuff and really getting hooked onto the RC stuff. And we'll pan out here, and you can see it's kind of spiraled a bit. So this is what's happened in the last couple of months. All of this here. So started out with the FCX18. Then we got this one for my daughters. This is a TRX4M Defender. Started out as a Defender, at least. And then we switched out to the Endura IR60 body. Just because that Defender body is so heavy and top heavy. It doesn't climb very well out the box. And these only have a single speed transmission, and they're geared very high. So capability wise, out of the box, I mean, the FCX is a lot better, right? But now this thing's actually climbs a lot better. We did, change out the motor, the transmission, and got rid of the heavy body. So this was actually made a little bit of an improvement on that platform. Then I got this Red Cat Apex, the 18 scale, and this thing is just a straight hardcore line killer out the box. I mean, I've changed the wheels and tires just mainly for looks, but all you got to do is add 4 AA batteries, and this thing will just run circles around everything else in here. This guy's also pretty new. This is the Axial SCX30, the K10. Haven't really used this one much. I got it just because I really like how it looks. Very cool little scale reproduction model, and they're tiny. I mean, you just see just how big this is. This is where the fun really is, though, over here. This is my H10 Optic Vanquish H10 Optic buggy, and I've done a ton of work onto this thing. So it's a rear steer. Really the only thing that's original Vanquish at this point is probably the cage and the transmission. So axle housings were changed out, although it does have the Vanquish internals, right? So Vanquish internals, just a lot of upgrades on the axle housing, the steering as well. Let's see, he's running on some RC forged 2.2 inch wheels on J Concepts 5.25 inch tires. This one is a fully 3D printed Project IJ is how the name goes, and it's sitting on a Vanquish VS410 chassis. So this, again, very cool scale reproduction parts, and everything you see here is 3D printed on the body. So, obviously except for the small scale metal hardware, but interior, everything fully 3D printed. This is a very fun project. Just finished this one recently. Now back to the FMS. So again, changes from the last time is it's got a brand new body. So I really wanted to take some of the weight off of the top and try to get this thing to perform better on some of the steep climbs and avoid from it tipping over or tipping backwards. And so I got a brand new body just so I could keep the original one as it was with all the roof rack accessories. And this one's straight from FMS. I just add this, just the holes are there just to cover up the inside and connect it to the interior window. And I didn't realize at the time, but they actually sent me, I think this is some of the older generation body. You can notice that the fender flares are all one piece. Unlike the one that I received, it had the black cap, and you can actually unscrew that cap. So it was a 2-piece design. It had a big retaining bar on the inside. And this one actually worked out a lot better because I actually get better clearance on the inside. Probably too dark to see it, but because there's no essentially inner retaining block, there's really no lip in here at all, and these tires are able to tuck even better onto the inside with no rubbing. I didn't have to trim this body at all compared to the one with the black fender flares that I did have to trim to clear the tires at full stuff. So the other change I made is I swapped out the tires. So these are J Concepts 63 millimeter megalithic tires, and I mean, these tires are just so much better than the old Endura tires that I had. Actually, the Endura tires are here on my daughter's TRX4M. Endura tires, they look cool, but they leave much to be desired in terms of performance-wise. I mean, these J Concept tires, they are my favorite tire at the moment, right, based on everything I've tried. This guy has the Mia's tires. These are okay as well, right? But, from the short amount of testing I've done, there's really nothing that compares to J Concepts. They grip extremely well, and you'll notice I put them on all my other bigger ones as well, right? These are the J Concept ruptures in 4.92 inches, and again, these are the same ones that the FMX has, the megalithics in the 5.25. Just nasty looking tire. Doesn't look very realistic or scale. I guess maybe it does compared to some of those super swampers, but they are super grippy. There's just no comparison between some of the cheaper stuff that Endura makes. So again, you guys are looking for a really good tire, check out these J Concepts. The megalithics, they got the tusk and the rupture. Those are some of the 3 more popular ones used for the crawlers. All right, so here's a view of the truck sitting on its own weight with the new the new megalithic tires, 63 millimeter, again, same size as before. The truck looks like it came up a little bit taller, right? So taking off that weight from the roof rack, that was quite a bit of weight. I did lose the light bar that I had, unfortunately, but I actually really like the way it looks. It looks a lot more, I'd say, scale realistic, right? It looks like your typical 80 series Land Cruiser on 40-inch tires or so. Just the overall stance that it has. Again, very clean look in the back. No spare tire. Took out the ladder as well and just put some screw holes in there. I did change out the metal. In the aluminum Endura bumper that I had on there before. This is a 3D printed file that I found and just ran it out real quick from the printer. The Endura one is nice, but it's just a rock anchor. I mean, it just gets stuck everywhere because it hung so low. I mean, it'd probably hang down about here. This one's very nice. Just high and tight to the body, nothing to hang down or get caught up on anything. Just very slim, low profile. There is a similar one for the front. I haven't changed it out yet just because I really like the look of this one in the front, and I tend to do okay with the clearance. I haven't had an issue just yet. I'm still able to maneuver okay with it, but really like the new look. The body, it almost has a different tint as well than the gray one that I had. This one's sort of a little bit of a brighter silver. The other one was much of a darker gray. And let's see, what else have I done? This has been the new obsession lately is 3D printing, right? So one thing led to another. Picked up a 3D printer. I've been looking at some little DIY crawler courses, and so these files here that you see, they're made by Crawlagon. They have a ton of different files online, for a couple bucks, and you get a pack of just different terrains. They have different size tiles. These are the extra large tiles. There, you can see they're kind of the outline there, and they fit together very well, right? And there's some interlocking pins underneath that hold everything. There's these trim pieces that they also sell if you want to make certain shapes, right? So I don't have a lot of room to put this, build out a dedicated course. So this is one of their XL terrain packs. I surrounded it by all of these different XL rock packs, and then use these pieces here to kind of give it an overall octagonish type shape, right? So it's all contained into one unit. And the filament that I use is aniline fossil, so it's a gradient filament. It looks very natural, right? So very cool, very soft color transitions. And even though these tiles are all printed separately on different spools, it all merges together quite nice, I would say. The only issue here is, you can see this guy here is when I ran out of one spool, switched to another. That's where you get some of the harder defined lines. But overall, it doesn't look bad, right? I mean, here's another example here where, switch from one spool to the other and the color gradient starts again. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll show you some climbs with the truck, and you'll see just how much more nimble it is now that it doesn't have all that weight on top. All right, let's give this a quick test run, see how it does on this course. And you can see why I wanted to get rid of that bumper, just because it gets caught all over the place. Very steep climb, didn't unload from the front like it normally would have done with all that weight. Kind of wedged here, see if we can maneuver out of it. Getting caught on the front bumper. There you go. and you can do some little perimeter crawling around the obstacles here. And one of the things I really like about this, having such a strong servo, this little NSD RC RS100, is you could just hear how strong they are. And I don't know if you guys caught it while I was doing those climbs. It just, I mean, it's just super strong, help you pivot the body wherever you need to. But yeah, it does really good. I don't know. I think we're kind of going with a brushless setup just to get better throttle control, because these things are kind of touchy. They don't have a lot of good control at the low speed, and it seems like you really have to gun it, and then you lose control of it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll see if I want to spend the money and go with the brushless setup. But really happy with the suspension movement so far. It's just the drivetrain that I think now leaves much more to be desired. Well, there you go. The latest updates on the FCX18. I think I've kind of reached the limit of what I want to do and how much I want to spend on this guy. Like I said, I kind of really want to do a brushless setup, but that means I got to get a new receiver. Can't use the same transmitter. So again, not sure if I really want to keep going down that route or really gotten more into the 10 scale stuff. I find that a lot more fun outdoors. These guys are cool for indoor and backyard use, but again, at the same time, if you guys have a 3D printer, check out these files. Very cool. A lot of flexibility and customizations that you can do as far as making these courses as big or as little as you want, right? And they're quite challenging. I think the 18th is probably as big as you want to do. Some of these climbs, they get a little tough for the 18 scales. I think it works better for the 24th and 30th scales, but it's very cool stuff. Fun to use at home in the backyard or in the living room. And there you go. Until next time.